Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity to contribute on this consideration of the first supplementary estimates for the year 24-25. Maybe, Honorable Speaker, just to exonerate myself, you know everything we say here is on record. And the Honorable Fatuma was referring to me when she was complaining about new members speaking. And maybe by now she should have known that it is the speakers that, or the persons sitting on the speaker's chair who decide who speaks, not the leader of minority, not the leader of majority. I also wait, like I have patiently waited to get this opportunity to contribute. But Honorable Speaker, let me say this first supplementary budget within the first month of the financial year is a very unique supplementary budget. Indeed, it is the second such supplementary budget that I've seen since I joined this House over 10 years ago, the first being in 2018, which was also occasioned by changes of the Finance Act of 2018-2019. And those like Millie Odhiambo, who are here, we remember when we declined to approve the VAT on fuel. That occasioned certain changes to the appropriations bill, occasioning the first such supplementary, although that happened within the second to third month. This is the first time indeed in the history of Parliament that we are seeing a supplementary budget even before we begin implementing the budget. And it must not be lost on Kenyans that this was occasioned by the rejection of the Finance Act of 2024-2025. That rejection of the Finance Act occasioned a huge gap in our budget for this financial year, Honorable Speaker, and that is what has necessitated this supplementary budget this early in the financial year. The rejection of the finance bill occasioned a deficit of an additional 346 billion. And that tells you, Honorable Speaker, without this first supplementary budget, it would therefore mean that the government of Kenya goes out to borrow the entire 346 billion. Members will note that this supplementary budget is only reducing our budget by a total of about 146.3 billion. There is therefore another gap or a fiscal deficit of an additional 200 billion, part of which, Honorable Speaker, would be covered through additional revenue-raising measures and other austerity measures that will be carried on in the course of the financial year. Honorable Speaker, it's important to say this so that Kenyans get to understand that every finance act or every finance bill that consequently becomes a finance act comes to finance government operations and the budgets that we have budgeted for the people of Kenya. And I've heard many members lament this and that budget has been cut. Yes, this and that budget will be cut. And indeed, I heard the member of Githunguri complain that the coffee cherry revolving fund has lost 1 billion shillings, but failed to inform coffee farmers that they have an additional 3 billion shillings, but they would have gotten an additional 4 billion shillings this financial year. But also, Honorable Speaker, as rightly as she said, and she was asking, I don't know whether sarcastically, that whether dairy farmers or milk farmers are more important than coffee farmers. All farmers in the Republic of Kenya are important farmers. And that is why even dairy farmers in Githunguri, dairy farmers in Kikuyu, dairy farmers in Karachuonyo, dairy farmers in Bungoma, in Kandui constituency, and those in Kuresoi, south and north, will benefit from milk coolers, because it is a key promise that this administration promised dairy farmers that we will ensure that there is substantive value addition in the milk value chain, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, as much as within the last budget that we had just approved, there wasn't money for milk coolers and for dryers for maize farmers, we have now made sure that there are resources that are being allocated to ensure that we also secure the post-harvest losses from our maize farmers. We secure our dairy products by having coolers around our country in dairies in almost all our wards, Honorable Speaker. And I know we don't have adequate resources, courtesy of the rejection of the finance bill, to be able to roll out everything that ought to have been rolled out, Honorable Speaker. You have had many of, and this morning, Honorable Speaker, I had an engagement with the young people who keep sending us messages. A young girl called Jane, who told me she's a student at MKU, complaining that they have no access to university funding, Honorable Speaker. But I want to assure Jane and many other university students that the Committee on Budget has made sure that under the differentiated unit cost and also resources that have gone to the Higher Education Loans Board, no child, no student in university, no child or student in our TVET institutions will lack to access higher education on account of either capitation through DUC or either getting loans and sponsorship or scholarships through the Higher Education Loans Board. And these are some of the balances, Honorable Speaker, that we have had to do. That means, Honorable Speaker, that there will be a give and take within the supplementary budget, and that's why you see there are many other areas that we have cut expenditure, part of which might have been critical expenditure, but which can wait. And budget is all about prioritizing, Honorable Speaker, and we must be able to prioritize so that we ensure that even those who crusaded for the rejection of a finance bill are not going to suffer, Honorable Speaker, because they have opportunities that they will never be able to access. A child who does not access university education today cannot wait for next year or the year after. But probably a road in Kikuyu constituency that was to be constructed this financial year can wait. I therefore want to take this opportunity to ask Kenyans and to plead with Kenyans to be patient, because under these difficult economic times, under these times where we give and take, you cannot and we cannot have our cake and eat it at the same time. If we have no finances from the finance bill, then a road here and there will give way. A dam here and there will give way. Another project to do a hospital somewhere will give way. But, Honorable Speaker, that will come with the necessary and requisite responsible stewardship of the National Treasury. And I want to believe, even with the nominees that have been named today, the Honorable John Mbadi, God willing, if he ends up being in the National Treasury, he has the requisite knowledge, and he has sat in this House. He knows. He has been a member of the Budget and Appropriations Committee when I chaired that committee. Honorable Speaker, I am confident that we'll be able to roll out this budget, be able to chew gum and scale the stairs at the same time, be able to cut on expenditure, unnecessary expenditure, and also be able to roll out critical development and other social programs in education, Honorable Speaker, even capitation to our day and boarding secondary schools, and also our JSS teachers, the JSS capitation, Honorable Speaker. All these things must run concurrently, even as difficult as things are under the rejected finance bill, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, there are certain things, Honorable Speaker, that were in the Finance Act or the Finance Bill, it never became an act, that would have helped this country also realize very many other developmental objectives. And for instance, Honorable Speaker, was the waiver or the exemption on penalties on tax amnesty, or rather the tax amnesty provision that was there in the Finance Bill. Honorable Speaker, I am hoping that with time, the Finance Committee will make consideration to see how we can rescue some of these very positive things that were demonized within the Finance Bill that would have done very well for this economy, Honorable Speaker. That waiver, or the tax amnesty waiver, Honorable Speaker, easily generates close to between 30 to 40 billion shillings, and at the same time allows business people in this country an opportunity to save from penalties that have been penalized by KRA on account especially of bills they have not paid, because government is also holding their money under the pending bills, Honorable Speaker. And I want to pray and hope that the Finance Committee and indeed the National Treasury are working on two ways that they can rescue some of these good things, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, if you listen to people speak about the creation of jobs, we say the bottom-up economic transformation agenda is anchored on job creation, Honorable Speaker. We tried, Honorable Speaker, during the Finance Bill debate, to speak to Kenyans and inform some of the measures that were in the finance bill spoke to job creation. But unfortunately, under the circumstances, it was difficult to get that message across to Kenyans. When we spoke about the manufacture of diapers, manufacture of sanitary towels, Honorable Speaker, we were simply trying to safeguard local manufacturing to ensure that our industries are thriving to create jobs locally, to ensure that those industries are generating revenues in this economy, not exporting jobs to other countries in the Far East, not exporting our forex to countries in the Far East as we import. And I'm glad I heard this afternoon the President speak to it, that it is time we had a conversation as Kenyans as to whether we want to make our economy one large supermarket to merchandise products manufactured and creating jobs in other economies outside of our economy, or whether we want to make our country a manufacturing hub where we'll be able to manufacture sanitary towels, diapers, and all those other things, Honorable Speaker. I've had members contribute to the issue of farmers. And that's what I was asking about, whether milk farmers are more important. Those who are claiming milk farmers seems to be getting preferential treatment versus coffee farmers. That, Honorable Speaker, within the finance bill, we had provisions that sought to protect poultry farmers. Many of our peasant farmers are in poultry rearing. Others are growing potatoes, Honorable Speaker. Others are growing onions. We sought to protect the onion farmer. We sought to protect the potato farmer, the poultry farmer from cheap imports of eggs, of potatoes. What reason is there, Honorable Speaker, for us to be growing onions in Loitoktok or in Kieni, in Nyeri County, and allow the importation of cheaper onions from Tanzania at the expense of the farmer in Kieni? Why would a farmer in Mochongoi, in Baringo County, or in Kinangop in Nyandarua be growing potatoes, yet my famous KFC and other cheap joints in town are importing potatoes from as far as Mexico and Netherlands? We must protect our local farmers, Honorable Speaker. And these are some of the measures that I'm saying we will need time to now soberly look at all these things and know how else can we finance the deficit that we have. Honorable Speaker, in conclusion, the revenue estimates that are contained in the budget that we approved, and even in this supplementary budget, are usually very optimistic. If you look at where our country is today, we have been told we are losing not less than 6 billion shillings. Every day we are out in the streets stopping other people from going to work. The import of that, Honorable Speaker, is that we may not realize the revenue projections that we have projected in this supplementary budget. The consequence of that will be additional borrowing. That borrowing will have ramification on our cost of borrowing locally in the domestic market, because you have to borrow from the domestic market. It will have an implication on how much business people, or the rate at which business people can borrow, how much investments they can invest in, how many jobs they can be able to create for young Kenyans. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, I just want to speak to Kenyans and ask them, let us reason together. Let us act in a manner that we will not destroy our economy as we seek to fix that which we seek to fix in our country. It is possible, as I said, to chew gum and scale the stairs, Honorable Speaker, together. And I believe together, we as a country can be able to do that. We can be able to fix the economic mess that we are in. We can be able to fix our politics without fighting, without injuring each other. We can be able to grow this economy and get it to where it ought to be. And Honorable Speaker, let me conclude by saying this first supplementary budget, as I said, is unprecedented. But I want to believe in the next few months, inevitably, we will get into a second. And this year, I foresee even a third supplementary budget, and ask the National Treasury that as they begin implementing this budget, Honorable Speaker, and as the new government ministries and state departments take shape, they will need to further review these budgets further to be able to align them with the new governance system that will be there, and to ensure that there are further cuts so that if the projected revenues that we project are not realized, then we do not need to go out and borrow much more, because even that space to borrow more money, we are almost hitting the ceiling that we set in this House, Honorable Speaker, and therefore it will not be feasible to continue borrowing. Honorable Speaker.
Time is up. Member for Chepalungu, Honorable Victor Koech.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. I equally want to appreciate the opportunity you've given me. So I also heard my voice on the ongoing debate on the report by the Budget and Appropriation Committee, led by Honorable Ndini Nyoro.